I'm not super camera shy, so I mean that's not the worst thing in the world. And there are all these things. This is my Three Nails shirt. Hello and welcome to the last episode of season 2 of Welcome to the Medins. You're probably wondering, well, why is this last episode? And it seemed like it would be good to end on an even number, 10, as well as felt like a little bit of a celebration after season 1 only getting 9 episodes. This season I got one more episode out before calling it a close on this season. But don't worry, we're going to come back beginning of next year with season 3 of Welcome to the Medins. So I'm super excited about that, getting to update you guys about what's been happening since Thanksgiving with Christmas, and all of December is packed, like ridiculously packed, with family birthdays. So there is just so much going on between now and the end of the year that it also kind of made sense to step back a little bit, kind of take a break, maybe uh, write down a list and come up with more things that we could talk about that would really bring more of a purpose behind Welcome to Medins, where it's not right now. It's kind of been a little bit spontaneous with the grand majority of the last few episodes being me. Um, and I'm not super camera shy, so I mean that's not the worst thing in the world. But what I want to do is I want to be able to bring more of the family back again, and people are just so busy with work. Drew's got some changes have been going on with him, so he's pretty busy with that. Family, of course, the holidays. You all know what that's like, having to try and wrangle up everyone for the holidays. There's Christmas shopping, there's food that has to get made, there's stay that's got to get figured out, and then, just on and on and on. There's so many things. Anyway, I wanted to take a little bit of a break, be able to breathe a little bit in terms of thinking about, okay, I need to relax my brain, think about what could we be doing in this new season of Welcome to the Deans to take it a step or more further. So again, I encourage you, if there are things you want to know about us, feel free to comment or message us and be like, hey, I would like to know this. What is this like? How do you do this? We could do more baking or cooking portions. We could do more bedtimes. We could, whatever it may be. If you guys just actually want to follow us on like a weekend outing, I don't know. But take the time where it's not like, I got to get the next episode ready right now, but I can just sit and think, okay, what would be great episode 1 through however many we want to do in the third season, and then break it down who all I need to be interviewing, because I don't want you guys to just have to see me all the time, even though I love seeing you. And then kind of move forward from there. Work out to get some more sponsors and things like that to be able to help kind of add more of a viability to this, to hopefully maybe even be a form of income for me. That'd be pretty wonderful. To take my life to YouTube and be able to do a lot more with Welcome to the Deans. Maybe even get to travel and show you what it's like traveling as a large family, because that is pretty difficult for those of you who travel even just as a few kids. There's a lot involved there. Now let's try and take every single Medin family member on the road or something, flying somewhere, and see what happens. So anyway, quick explanation as to what's going on there. Now, this episode, a little bit spontaneous. I was thinking it'd be a little fun to have like a finale, something of some sort that'd be super intriguing for Welcome to the Medins, season 2, episode 10. But I couldn't really think of anything. So I was talking to PJ about it the other night, and it's like, I want to do this big finale, and people are busy, so it's just going to be me again. What do you recommend I talk about? And PJ said, there's some different areas of your life that you could honestly just touch on and be like, how'd you get through that? And I felt like I maybe did that a little bit in the last 2 episodes, but I suppose one area I didn't really deal with that was really hard for me in terms of getting over something, moving past something, getting to go ahead in life without being chained to the back or the past, was breakups. Um, and Peach is like, everyone goes through breakups and things like that. But, for some people, it's so hard to get through because the rejection is so bad, whether it be um, they've, like, it kind of piles on top of family rejection. Now this person has this major rejection issue and this baggage that they carry with them moving forward, where everything is motivated by fear of rejection. Or it's just you thought you were going to marry that person and then all of a sudden it ends and you're sitting there in your room, going through every conversation, every circumstance again and trying to figure out what went wrong, where could I correct this, is there like a shot, is there a shot at a second chance? And so for diving in, for me, rejection has kind of been a big issue, not due to family rejection or anything that, but probably low self-esteem, or something. I suppose I've never quite pinpointed the exact foundation of the issue, but I just knew that it hurt really bad anytime I had to deal with it. I'm not to say that doesn't hurt for some people, it hurts for others. Some people are better at dealing with it than I did, but kind of want to take you through my journey of that. And so, kind of where all that began was oh gosh, 10 10 years ago. And don't worry, I'm not going to give names of people or anything like that, but just go through the story. I was dating a young lady, and I was anticipating being able to marry this young lady in the future, and then kind of move ahead in my life with her, and had all these visions and direction of travel and all these things, kids and all this stuff, dream career, doing breakthrough, living on the road, find a way to make like travel ministry and family and raising kids all possible. And I'd been working all this out in my own mind. And so this young lady and I, we were like, we were talking a lot, getting to know each other, had to deal with long distance. And so that like caused my heart to tie even deeper into her, because absence makes the heart grow fond. And my heart was growing really fond, really deep. And it was getting hard. Um, but I was like, I'm finally getting close to the age where I could like start looking at the reality in the next year or so of being able to make it a possibility of marriage. And the young lady and I had started dating when her father finally gave me permission to say, you can officially call it official. I was like, yes. Her family loved me as far as I knew. And my family liked her as far as I knew. And, just being a young guy and being in my first relationship, I was like, all things are going well. Every dream is coming true. Um, I was with PSEO, technically my junior year of college, because I had done my freshman and sophomore year in high school. Um, I was partway through my junior year, taken some hard classes. Thankfully, a pretty easy class, which was theology at St. John's. And for me, that was like I never really had to study, because I knew the Bible pretty well back and forth, and that was what that whole class was about. But it was also a good excuse, like, hey, my homework says this, so I suppose I kind of I was responsible. I want to let you know I was responsible. I was a responsible student studying, but all of my work was primarily going into my calculus class, which I'm not a math whiz. Um, I can do like quick form math now, and I've kind of been diving deeper into math again with music and like really figuring out the mathematical side of that in drumming and song orchestration, all that. But anyway, at that point in time, I think the highest I'd gotten in math was like partway through algebra 2. And so then to go from algebra 2 to calculus is like this almost felt like insurmountable jump that I did, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. So, just quick tip, if you only got an algebra 2, do whatever math things you got to do in between geometry, trig, and all that before you get to calculus. Anyway, so dealing with the hardest class of my life up to that point, And we have this phone call, the young lady and I, and she broke up with me out of nowhere. What felt like out of nowhere. And it, I handled it how I like to think quite well. And, trying to save it as best I can, but like be listening and respectful and all this stuff. And, finally say our last goodbye, and hang up the phone. And I just broke. I just became a horrible hot mess. It thankfully in my dorm room alone at that point in time, and just started crying and crying and crying and crying and crying because my heart had been so invested over the years that this young lady and I had been dating, and dealing with the distance, the heart being so fond of her. And up to that point, I think she's the most beautiful girl in the world. I'm not going to be able to do better than that. How am I ever going to be able to recover from this? And why am I being rejected? So then I started that, what turned into like a 5-year journey of anger. Started that journey, and it all started with this like horrible circulating thought process of failure and why and what could I have done and why, and oh, I should have done this. Maybe she'll talk to me again, and why I never want to talk to her again, and why, and da, ba, da, da, ba, da, da, it just went on and on and on and on and on. Or I'd sit there and I'd just get like so caught up that it almost like no life was in my eyes because I was so deep in my head of trying to figure out this reason to deal with this and hopefully even save the relationship again, because I'd pictured my life moving forward with this young lady. And I called my dad, I called my brother, and I'm bawling my eyes out and talking to him on the phone and trying to sort things out. On top of that, I still got to show up to class every day, but now my brain is foggy because my dad says your brain is like a computer. It only has so much RAM or storage or space that it can use at a time. And so if there's like a repeating program, that's taking up space. And the more you pile on it, the more space it takes, so the less it can take in and process moving forward. And so I'd say over half my brain activity was now occupied with this. So, like, just fast forwarding, because I'm also on a time limit. My camera only records for like 30 minutes before it shuts off, and I'm trying to keep these episodes short. I started going through anger and bitterness and jealousy of being like, well, she's still living life and she's beautiful, and now all these guys are potentially gonna date her and all this stuff, and it should be me, and da 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 da. I'm super aggravated, and still going through college now, not really making any friends because my life is either class, studying, gym, which now I'm working out just because I'm angry. So my motivation is anger. Um, trying to go with that jealousy bod, which didn't really fully turn out. Whatever. Um, and going through college just with all that, and then finish out college. You know, dated a couple young ladies, really nice young ladies. Have a lot of respect and honor for them still, and I'm so happy that they move forward in life. But I was just always tied back to this one, and it would show up in the weirdest of ways. One time, it's embarrassing, but my brother and my family were visiting back from Switzerland, and my brother, like my little brother Daniel, y'all know him, we all love him. He was annoying me and like playfully kicking me and stuff, and like this is where I knew is kind of at its worse, and I was really gonna need to conquer this. He like kicked me, I grabbed his leg and I just twisted it because I was so irritated and had tried so hard to cover up all this anger and keep it inside, and no one will be able to know because I'll keep this stone face. But here I'll be like happy and all Sean like and engaging and sales y and whatever, friendly on the outside, as I'm still battling with this like a couple years after the whole event. And my parents got so upset. Uh, and my oldest brother, PJ, did, and they pulled me aside and they started talking to me like, we see you're still dealing with this anger, and we are so sorry that this happened to you. Yes, it's ridiculous. All the usual comforting comments of it's, her loss, all the usual things people say you just don't believe. And I'm like, man, this is affecting me. Like, I gotta somehow deal with it. And so I'm like, all right, I'll deal with it. I'll spend time with the Lord, more time with the Lord, and try and figure this stuff out. So now I'm doing my best to manage that, and admittedly dating still in that period of time, which wasn't the healthiest decision for that. I don't recommend dating when you're still hurting from something, because hurting people hurt people. Emotionally, because you're still carrying that baggage with you. So if you are dealing with this, I'd recommend, if you're dealing with hurt and you aren't in a relationship, don't go for one, because the relationship won't heal you. All right, it ain't gonna help you get out of that circle and this mess. I'll get to a conclusion here eventually. But I didn't have that wisdom. So I may seem a little hypocritical. I apologize for that. But anyway, so I'm now like, I really gotta tackle this. And I'm still doing breakthrough. I'm still doing church. I'm done with college now up to this point. I'm doing kind of work in the corporate world in my first job as a recruiter, but still dealing with this stuff in my mind. Everything in me is like, things have to change. I need to get this relationship back. Like, I want this young lady so bad. What can I do? Could I call her? Could I send her an email? Next time I go to Switzerland, could we meet? And maybe she'll see, like, boy, she is missing out. I don't know. That's just all the stuff, is I'm like still battling with all that, even after having dated a couple more young ladies. And one night, I think I'd gone to help my brother with something. No, we had gone to do a worship night, and he was my ride back home. We're in the car. And I love PJ for this, his ability to confront you with hard things when you don't generally want to do that. And he says, Sean, you're stuck. I feel bad. But I see that's all tied to this past relationship. You were so angry, and all of us see it. And sometimes you honestly are not fun to be around. Which, honestly, I had thought I was the life of the party anywhere I went, no matter when it happened. But he goes, we have to do ministry. You've blown up the past few times in band practice, or before a show or after a show. And you need to remember, we are ministering to each other, and we are ministering on and off the stage. There's not a moment that we can enable ourselves to slip up due to some anger of some kind. So you either need to give this girl up completely, let it go, never think to go back to that relationship again, and just drop it, or we're going to look for a new drummer. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, I'm the best drummer there is here. Like, I was arrogant, very prideful, and cocky at that time, 2 years ago. I've humbled up since. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, you guys can't do that. This has been my life up to this point, now going over 10 years. And well over 10 years at that point. Like, you can't do that to me, because this is what is helping me through this. If you said that, obviously we aren't helping because you're still struggling. I was like, but you can't. Like, maybe things could change. And PJ is like, they aren't gonna change. This girl is gone. Okay, just deal with it. And you have to give it up. We want you to be our drummer. We don't want to have to say, Sean, it's time for you to leave the band. But we will, if you're going to decide to stick to the past rather than move forward. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, aggravated that Peter even dared to threaten me with that. And like, okay, leave the car, get back home. I'm like, God, like this is affecting me. I am angry. I am bitter. I'm constantly battling in dreams and just in daydreams, and my mind is still foggy. I'm not as creative. I'm not as free. I'm actually not nowhere near as nice as I used to be. And everyone honestly around me is obviously having to practice grace with me all the time. And I like to say, never be the reason someone has to practice grace, you know. And I was being the reason people had to practice grace. So it hit hard. I was like, the only person who has stuck with me through all of this, other than my family, but who has never let me down once, that I have obviously not depended on in the right way, has been God. God, show me what I need to do right now to change this. I can't lose my band. I know you have a better future for me than that girl. Help. And you know what's odd is when you ask God for help, God, make me more patient. God, help me to be kind. Help me to be more gracious. Help me to be more generous. He doesn't just flip a switch in your heart. He gives you the circumstances in which you can practice those things, because practice makes perfect and develops those skills, those mindsets. All of a sudden, our church, they were talking about speaking life, speaking positively over situations, good and bad, to remind yourself of God's goodness, bring up scripture of God's promises. And before that, I'd just been like, well, life sucks, they can just deal with it. And very bitter in all of my speech. I was like, okay, I'm going to start changing my language. And hopefully at that point in time, even change the fluctuation of my vocal tone, which I'm working on still not being monotone, but like engaging and changing my notes and all the no technical terms, whatever. None of this was prepared. Okay? Please forgive me for that. I was like, God, help me with this. And so a situation would come up where it was either I could be brutally honest about how bad this sucked, or I could be like, you know what, God, you are still good. Here's a promise for this situation. All right, made it through that one. One day at a time. Kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. All of a sudden the lights started to change. But I wasn't fully over it yet. And so enter the young lady who I would end up marrying. She comes into the picture. We start talking. I think she is gorgeous. She still is. Whew. Michaela Ray. She's going to watch and be like, oh, you're being so weird and uncomfortable. She's beautiful. I love her so much. Anyway, she came into the picture and I'm like, wow, this girl is awesome. She's interested in me. She's investing in me. She's like taking steps towards me rather than me having to do all the work. And we start dating. I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty good. But I still had some pretty decent hints of the past in me, of my first girlfriend. And I'm like, so I'm loving this new girl, but I'm still oddly attached to the last one. And it's starting to come in different ways of like my level of investment in who is my now wife, but at the time we were dating. I was like, oh no, this can't be good. And I'll try to sum this up. We broke up twice. The second time almost ended the relationship completely. And in that period of time, the second breakup was about 2 months. And so I'm in a car with my dad, and I don't remember exactly how the conversation came up, but he essentially said, Sean, I see your past is coming up. You were holding on to that. If you don't let that go, you're going to lose this girl. I started bawling my eyes out, the realization my past had still had a hold on me. And he said, this girl is a girl we all love, all of us. We think that she is the right one for you. Your mom and I have seen it and experienced it in different ways where the Lord has spoken to us about her. And so if things don't go well, it is your fault this time, not hers. You need God to deliver you here. I was like, oh, but we're broken up. And he said, I know, but God can correct for your mistakes. Because if I recall, that was your decision, not hers. Like, oh, yes. So after dealing with not only crying, but the embarrassment of crying in front of my dad, I got down on my knees in my room and I said, God, I surrender my heart to you. I am so angry still, and obviously I'm still attached to everything about my first girlfriend. Deliver me. Like, I don't even know what to pray, God. Like, help me out here. And it felt like he said, you need to forgive her. If you can't forgive her, well, one, it doesn't even matter to her that you're angry because she's forgotten about you. But if you can't forgive her, you can't move forward. I can't bless you in moving forward. And I'm not going to give you what your ultimate dream was, which was my wife and my kids. I was on my knees next to my bed and I just said, God, I forgive her. I forgive her for all the things I'd felt that she had done wrong. And I honestly don't even recall anymore if she had or what it was, because it's not important anymore, honestly. What's important is testimony from it, but all that actually happened is no longer important because I've forgiven her. I said, God, I forgive her of all the things I know I'm angry about and all the things I don't know I'm angry about. Please come into my heart and change it. Change my mindset about her as I've forgiven her, and free me to be free for my wife so that I can walk in the blessings, Lord, that you have for me. And things started to change. Like, forgiveness was that key I needed to let go of everything, all the angry thoughts, every word I held on to, even against myself, thinking that I had messed up in some way, and at some point shifting the blame to, no, she's the one who screwed it all up and it's her fault, and da 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 da. And all of a sudden I was able to start feeling God's forgiveness for that. And it started to free me to the point where then, obviously now I'm married. After those 2 months, my who would become my wife and I got back together, and I proposed to her 1 month later. And then we got married the following March. And my life has been so much better since. Because I finally forgave my past. I finally forgave the person who had wronged me, or I felt wronged by. And it changed everything for me. Like, it was so easy to hold on to that anger and that bitterness because it was so comfortable and it was so familiar that it was like forgiveness and joy were unfamiliar. They're very hard to I guess just take in, because it felt so silly that I should forgive someone and be joyful when this circumstance that is tied to the most important part of my life hurts so bad, and this person wronged me in that area, and they're all these things. So thankful I don't have subtitles on these videos. They look ridiculous with some of the things. but it had just been so odd to think of being happy when everything I'd wanted was taken away from me. And I could go into specifics about which I don't want to over the video of um, things I'd felt like I'd done right and things I'd felt I'd done wrong. These details that honestly aren't important anymore. But what was the most important thing was trusting God and forgiving. And I hadn't done that. I hadn't given it up to God because like God isn't going to give me any better than that. If anything, I'm going to get second rate now. Let me tell you, Michaela Ray is not second rate. I have said this so many times, and when I tell people about my wife now, is that I think she's the only young lady who would be able to handle what God has done in our lives in a way that I don't think anyone else could. Right now, we're living by faith entirely. We live in my parents' basement with our 4 kids, and at some point, we're planning on having a fifth. She has seen me in my best and in my worst. She has helped me through job transition from recruitment to marketing. She helped me in my transition from having a job to being let go. She was so supportive and she was excited for me in that. And I don't know if anyone else would have been able to do that and have the grace for that. On top of the fact I'm pretty quirky, and I'm not going to ask anyone to say anything about it because I can only imagine all the things that would come up. And then help me in having been let go to living by faith to then getting into a new job and then having frustrations from that and then God telling us to step out in faith and leave and now living in faith and by faith for the last almost 10 months. Michaela Ray is incredible. And I was finally allowed to have her, my wife, the person I've been praying for ever since I knew the difference between boys and girls. I was finally able to have her when I forgave and trusted God to give me better than what I had had before because He knew what was going to be best for me in the long run versus what would seem good for me in the short. This other young lady is happily married, hallelujah, and I hope her life is going well. I don't know if she'll ever see these. I forgive you. We're good. All right. I wish you and your husband and your family the best. Hallelujah for you. But it was all tied to forgiveness. And it's so weird how forgiveness is so important in our lives. I think about like the fact that when we're angry towards someone and we hold something against someone, it's like we want to poison them, but we've consumed the poison ourselves. They don't get the result of our anger. You know, if it's a past boyfriend or past girlfriend or past person you don't see anymore or talk to, you get all of the feelings from that because that's all being internalized and processed within you. And obviously, it's not helping you if you're in a bad situation now. Forgive them, and it's going to seem ridiculous to do it. Like, why do they deserve my forgiveness? They don't deserve. They didn't even say sorry. Just forgive them. I mean, your life is pretty miserable not forgiving them. So, I imagine you want your life to get better. At least that's what I would think. Forgive them and see how your life moves forward. You want to have that dream marriage. Forgive the person of your past. You want to have the dream job. Forgive the job from your past. You want to have a great family. Forgive your family for their wrongs. Because what good is it to hold that scrapbook of anger and revisit all the time just to pull up those emotions and even the chemical reactions in your body from that? I'd start speaking positively towards your life. My life is great. My life is grand. Although I may be living in a like unpreferred situation, but start speaking and seeing things more positively. It'll start opening your eyes to more opportunities, more things. You'll be able to see your life grow. And then you could get your dream spouse. You could become the dream parent, the father or the mother that you never had, the one you always wish you had but didn't. You can have the best friend that you always wanted because you forgave the one you thought you had. You have the boss. I don't know. The possibilities of that are endless, pretty much. But forgiveness leads the ability to be able to move forward. And I would, whatever, if you're going to do it, I suggest having something that you can kind of show to remind yourself of that commitment. Maybe write it down for yourself, or maybe you jot down scriptures on forgiveness just to have it in front of you, because it wasn't easy for me. It wasn't instantaneous, really. Um, I mean, that moment where I said I forgave and I admitted it fully, it started to release that. But there are times I still have to remember to forgive. So that anger will try and come back. You're like, well, I thought you said I was free. No, but you have the better capability to battle it now because you've moved ahead, and that forgiveness is in you already, and now it can keep coming when you have to still remind yourself, I forgive them. I forgave them. I still forgive them. They are free of my anger. They aren't guilty for me anymore. And so that's the the unscripted excuse me, the unscripted testimony of getting over a breakup. And there's always more to say. If you want to hear more about it, we can have a conversation about it. But I was able to get over it through forgiveness and through trusting the Lord, that He knew every desire I had in my heart for every aspect of my life, both mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually. Both, so all of those things. That's four, not just two: mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. The Lord knew all those things I wanted. He kept track of all those things. I had prayed about all of those areas. And he brought it to me. But He wasn't going to bring it to me until, one, I forgave my first girlfriend, and two, until He knew that the girl who became my wife wasn't going to be my idol or my God. And it's surprising how very easily you can let that idol characteristic slip in when you're angry about something in the past. Because then your dependency is on the new thing versus on the one who gave you that thing or that person. So my dependency is on the Lord. I'm not perfect. Still got to remind myself of this stuff. I make mistakes all the time. And that's just part of living life. But hallelujah, I have Jesus to help me out with the rest. And the Holy Spirit to guide me, and God who keeps a pretty close eye on me, I'm pretty sure. To be like, oh, let's slow down here, Sean. let's get this right. So yeah, that's the, I would say, short version of it. It's almost 39-40 minutes in, so this episode's longer than some. I really like telling stories, if you can't tell. But I want to include you in a family we've all gone through our different struggles. So you aren't alone. Coming in here, you aren't the only one with problems. You aren't the only one who still has problems or have gotten over problems. We all have problems, and we've gotten over problems, and we welcome you just as well as we welcome each other, because we've all made mistakes. So we aren't about to judge you for yours. We want to help you through yours. And that's why I encourage checking out Welcome to Medins, subscribing to our YouTube page, following us on Instagram, and liking us on Facebook. Not just because that increases numbers, which is always fun, but because I actually want to talk to you, and I actually want to have a conversation with you. And I actually want to encourage you, and that's why I want all my family's stories to be our encouragements. Maybe even not just encouragements, but advice in areas where you're like, I don't really need encouragement. I just need some advice about this situation. And if there's specific situations, comment, send us a message, and ask, or tell us about that situation. Ask for wisdom and advice. We talk about parenting, marriage, forgiveness, getting over past relationships, music, ministry, all sorts of different things. So we cover all sorts of different topics. So here At the end of season 2, welcome to the Medins. I want to invite you to become a part of our family. Sure, go feel free to watch season 1 and all of the season 2, but we're coming back again in season 3. And I know there's more going on. I'm excited to see what's going on, but I actually want to address more of what you guys think. I want to talk about more of what interests you, more of what you guys are going through. And it doesn't even have to be family oriented. If you have questions, we want to answer them and help you figure those things out. And if you want, of course, we won't, throw your name out there online, but we'll address it. I'll ask the problem. We'll go through it and talk with my family, and I'll grab the family members I think might be better at talking on that subject. And we can go through it, answer your question, and boom, help you through that situation and get to move ahead to the next wonderful challenge and adventure. Ultimately getting you to where you want to be. And ultimately that helps us get to where we want to be as well, which is once you kind of go through a problem, it kind of keeps it in your mind and better able to solve it within your own life as well. And so we want you to help teach us too. But I suppose I should have a sponsorship spot, and I do. I'm actually wearing the shirt this time, so pardon the camera work. But this is my 3 Nails shirt. They're a wonderful athletic apparel company out of the Twin Cities, and this was one that I fully supported and wanted to get behind. So if you're looking for athletic apparel or even just some comfy clothes, I'd recommend checking out 3 Nails. And if you use the code WTTM10, you get an additional 10% off of your apparel, and you help support the channel a little bit. So I'd love to see more of you wearing 3 Nails shirts, joggers, hats, tanks, and stuff like that, and getting to live life in the wonderful physical health of exercise. But anyway, I look forward to getting to see you all again in season 3 of Welcome to the Medins. Talk to you next time.